So what VG goes on to say is, this set of photos I took yesterday, I would say the trickiest even. I saw a photo which was very well taken in one of the forums and I wanted to try, but the challenge was I could not get close enough. I tried playing with different apertures and ISOs. Finally, I put the ISO in auto mode, but the resulting image was very dark. I used both a 50mm and kit lens, and this was the result. The measuring tape I made, it is a spiral, and at the broad end I tried clicking, mailing you both the reference image, which is this, which was another image, and my shots. Now, just a quick point, I'm not including the reference image she sent me. Quite simply, copyright respects. I've not asked, I don't know the person who did the original image. I think it's fine to share images between yourselves and send links to each other, but because this is a public live podcast going out, I don't feel comfortable sticking anybody else's photos up that I've not already spoken to and gained our permission from. But it doesn't matter. I think you get the idea of what it is we mean anyway. So I'm mailing you both the reference image and my shots. As always, it was a great challenge. As always, focus was a great challenge in such close quarters. So yeah, focus is a real problem here. And especially if you're using your kit lens, because in the end, the photo that you showed me, VG, very much looked like it was probably taken with a macro lens or something else, and I'll come on to that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this glass and I'm going to create a little tabletop over here. Now, I attempted this earlier and it sort of worked in a practice. I've not tried it live, so there's every possibility for this to go completely wildly wrong. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this little box here and place it here to create myself a little table. And then what we're going to do is we're going to swing this round here so you can see the table. And now we're going to take this little tape measure and we'll stretch it out a little bit. Let's play around with it a little bit, and so that I can kind of create a curve, a sort of slightly snake-like curve, little bits of gap in it. And then essentially the idea is to try and shoot down there. Now, what I'm going to do, I've got a little 50mm lens on the camera. Now, this isn't going to show up, but I want you to listen. I'm fairly certain this will pick up the sound. I'm going to switch that on and I'm going to attempt to focus. Now, do you hear this? This is the camera just going nuts because it can't focus. And the reason it can't focus is because it's too close. This lens is not a macro lens. So this lens has a limit to how close you can get before it will focus. And this close, which is where I need to be in order to try and shoot the inside of it, it can't do. So I'll come out here, come out here, come out here. Oh, did you hear that? Right, that little beep tells me now I'm in focus. But you can see how far away I am from this. And now, if I'll try that again. Take the photo. I don't know how well this is going to show up here, but you can see that it's not taking up an awful lot of the screen. I've got it on a very wide aperture, okay, because it's low light here. And if I sort of zoom in a bit, you can see it's very dark on the inside. There's not a lot really going on. I'm trying to find a little bit of, there's a little bit of focus, and it's just not really very fantastic, and it's not giving me a lot to play with. So, in the absence of having a macro lens, I'm finding that this just isn't really doing the job for me. So what I want to do is I want to show you at this point, let's put the lens cap back on, your phone, right? Now, this phone is 4 years old, so it's, modern phones are even far more interesting than this one. But basically what I'm going to do is, the thing about your phone is the little lens on the back here is tiny, whereas the lens on the camera is quite wide. So it means we can fit into the space much more easily. So if I go to the little camera option here, Can you, I don't know quite how well you can see that, but basically it's allowing me to get quite in. And the thing is with these, they quite often kind of got built-in macro lenses to them. So if I just sort of select that and then click, tilt this way? No, it isn't. But anyway, basically you can see that I've now managed to get in quite close inside it. But we can have a little bit more fun with this. Get a torch. Right, little torch which isn't working very well, but there we go. Now, if I take this torch and this cheap torch which has a dodgy connection and shoot the light up one end, so you see it's starting to light up in there. So now, right, turn that round so I can get the, I've got quite a bluish, now that's becoming quite interesting. And if let's just try and rest that on the edge there. Oh, that's somebody sending me messages, which I'm not really bothered about. So now I'll focus in on there, or maybe focus on a slightly darker patch, make that a little bit lighter, and then click. And now I think I've got a much more interesting image. Or what I could even do, if I bring that round here, and I create lights so that some of the light is kind of spilling through the gaps, I think that becomes quite interesting too. So I'll just focus somewhere like that and take that photo. So having done that, let's just kind of pull your background to me, something like that. Now, if you will bear with me one moment, let's flip back over to Photoshop, close those, and I will take the two photos that I've just taken on my phone and drag them in here. And so that's the one where the light was coming from the side, that's the one where I had the light going into the tube. And this, I think then, VG, is much more of the kind of thing that you were after. And this is just very, very quickly done. So if we take something like that, and now you've got this, if we want, we can zoom in, we can crop it, we can do all the other kind of editing bits that we want to have. So do something like that maybe, and then if we want we can go into camera raw filter and I don't know what to say, let's give it a vignette, take down the highlights a little bit, bring up the shadows a bit, and then play a little bit more with the texture and the clarity, kind of create something a bit more, something slightly more dynamic. And then if we want, we can convert it into black and white. Quick check of the channels, does it look any different? Doesn't look majorly different between the green and the blue, a little bit, but maybe a straightforward, a gradient map kind of conversion, something like that if you want it in black and white. Same kind of thing going on here. I'll not do it a second time, but the point being that your phone will sometimes get you into places that your camera won't. Now, that's not to say that why bother with a camera. There's plenty of times when the camera is going to give you much more of what you want. But a lot of phones these days are incredibly sophisticated, and if your pictures are only going to be going into online competitions, then actually your phone can often get into places and is more sophisticated for doing quick and easy stuff than your camera is. The camera, in order to get that look, on your camera, you need a macro lens. Macro lens is going to cost you another £800 or whatever, or maybe you can get cheap ones. But the thing is, it's going to cost you several £100 or $700 or tens of thousands of rupees. Now, if you want to be able to take this picture and print it up, so you want to do it as big as, these pictures up on the wall like that, then yes, you need to use your your DSLR, and because you need the high resolution of it. But if it's only ever going to go into one of these online competitions, then you don't. You only need it to look good enough to fill an HD screen. So it only needs to look really good at 2000 pixels wide. And your phone is perfectly capable of that. Most of these things are umpteen megapixels to begin with. Some of them are way more, but you know, I mean, if you've got 12 megapixel, I mean, yeah, forgive me. I mean, actually, a 2000 thing across is only a 2 megapixel photo. So if you've got a 6 megapixel camera, you can create something. And if you've got a 12 megapixel or an 18 megapixel, you've got room to play. And then you can crop in and you can edit. And so for these online competitions, a lot of that is all you need. So sometimes you can give yourself a real headache messing around with your DSLR when actually your phone will do. I can't remember which photographer it is, but basically there is one of those whose catchphrase as such is the best camera is the one that's in your hand. And it comes out of this idea, we'll always be moaning, oh, if only I had a different lens, if only I had a better camera. But actually, you can just get really creative with what you've got in your hand. And if all you've got in your hand is your phone, you can also be very creative for that. And especially if you do have some kind of editing software afterwards, which you can then take the picture back to, do your black and white conversion, if that's what you want to do, or crop it, or enhance particular colours, or remove little bits of objects, or stains, or dust spots, or anything else that you don't want it to have. So that's really what I wanted to show you with that, is sometimes your phone will actually do the job. The other thing with the phone is really to think of it, you can use it, I use it a lot for the equivalent of the thumbnail sketch. You know, it's like if you draw, if people are doing drawings or paintings, very often they'll do a quick sketch first, just to give themselves a sense of, is that going to work? And the phone is brilliant for that, because you don't have to get all the equipment out, worry about, you know, rigging it up to computers or getting lighting systems. You take quick photos with your phone to give you a sense of, is it working? And if I do that with a phone, and if I decided, actually, you know, I really, really love that effect, now I can I will go off and I will spend the time with my camera, with the DSLR, and playing around with lighting and playing around with setups and getting the macro lens and doing everything I do to create the perfect version of it. But to begin with, maybe that's all I need, or if it's a quick online competition or something like that, maybe the phone is going to do that, all that it needs to do. But use whatever tools you've got for creativity. So that pretty much is what I wanted to say about that. So let's run back, take a quick look at the comments, see what else we've got. If you found this useful, let your friends know and hit subscribe.